part of what I always want to share here are the tools that are the foundation for what I do day in and day out. And that means that we're talking about scanning through multiple time frames. We're talking about making sure we understand the rhythm of the trading day, making sure that we've gone to the economic calendar and understood what the potential volatility of the day could be, making sure that we understand if a particular pair is trading in close proximity to a psychological level. Those are always going to be support and resistance levels to respect, the double zeros especially. So, those are some of the broader strokes. Now, in terms of the way that I like to start my day, again, I hope you're starting off with an economic calendar. Pick whichever is your favorite and make sure that's part of your everyday routine, because I still find a lot of traders overlook not only looking at today, but looking at the week in general. Okay? The other aspect of your trading that I would highly recommend that if you've never done it, this is not something you need to do every day, but it's something that I think will help you a great deal regardless of the time frame you trade. And I've got it running on my charts here. Okay, you notice this is the MT4 Platform, and one of the plugins that I have running is the price movement ranges. It overlaps right on top of my chart. So if I want to take a look at, for example, the Euro US dollar, I can head on over there and I'll start with that daily look. The daily look's going to give me an idea about what? We talk about directional bias here a lot. In other words, is there a prevailing bullish or bearish trend? Not just sentiment and momentum. I can determine that from the grab candles, the last handful of grab candles that are plotted. We can see here that with the exception of this neutral candle here, for the most part, our sessions just over the past week have been dominated by red grab candles, more bearish sentiment and momentum. We don't have a really clear trend, I don't think, as of yet. We haven't been able to spend any kind of meaningful time below this recent low here. And that was, let's see, 40.12? No, it's going to be lower than that. 39.69. Okay, I can go ahead and mark that if I want. So I remember where it is that prices were able to rally from before, 39.69. And keep that right in my view. We pierced it, but we weren't able to establish any kind of selling resistance below it. Notice that? So if I want to go intraday, now that I've got this broader view of this chart, I want to go intraday and start looking at the directional bias, the price movement ranges. I can do so, and here they are. Now, let me zoom in a little bit and show you what this is, because it's very cool information, because some of you might already be familiar with it from a separate view. And let me go ahead and show you that view here. So I'm logging into the web-based, a standalone AutoChartist platform, and I know I've shared the pip movement ranges from this site before. I just want to show you how I'm overlaying the price movement analysis on my MT4, the price movement analysis that we typically look at on the standalone here. So let's say I head on over to Euro US dollar. Click on that. Of course, my emerging and completed chart pattern lists are going to populate, so I can see the different chart patterns. By the way, for those of you that are into Fibonacci patterns, AutoChartist scans for those as well. And you can overlay the chart patterns, you can overlay Fibonacci patterns, and the price movement ranges on your MT4 now. There are custom indicators now available for that. By the way, for those of you that are new to Fibonacci patterns, there are resources available over at autochartist.com. under the trader community, because I know a lot of you may not be familiar with the different Fibonacci-based patterns. And for those of you that are interested, one of my favorite books to teach about Fibonacci patterns is written by Larry Pesavento. That's kind of where my knowledge comes from. There's a book, I believe it's printed by Traders Press, called, I believe it's called Fibonacci. There we go, Fibonacci Ratios with Pattern Recognition. And the book's title tells you exactly what it's about. So any one of you out there want to take that next step into learning more about Fibonacci patterns, you can check that book out. It's a great resource. Not to mention, like I said, we've got resources about Fibonacci patterns right here at the autochartist.com website. Let me give you that link as well, because I know a lot of people have asked me, Raghee, I see that the Fibonacci patterns are available. I don't know enough about ABCDs and 3-point retracements and 3-point extensions and so forth, 3-point drives, and there's a number of articles written here about that in particular. And again, if you want to take that next step into learning more, check out Fibonacci Ratios with Pattern Recognition by Larry Pesavento. That's just my preference. That's just, it's just something that I like. It's a very to-the-point book, lots of charts to show you the examples. That's where my information about the topic has come from. So, going back to the view analysis and understanding the price movement range. So again, you guys are used to seeing this view here, okay? The one where the pop-up window arises. We can look at the price forecast range. We can look at the movement per hour. Now the movement per hour, you still have to check out from the standalone platform, but the movement per hour is not something you need to look at necessarily every day. I think for the most part, you look at that for a couple weeks, you get an idea about the rhythm of the market, when the volatility increases, decreases, the typical price movement range. I don't think that's necessarily something that's difficult to kind of not memorize, but really just get used to, and therefore it's not something that you need to keep going back to, unless you want to, of course. But the expected price ranges change every 15 minutes. They're updated by AutoChartist every 15 minutes. Now, I don't know about you, but as much as I keep this platform open all the time, it is very helpful to be able to go back to my charts and just have that information overlaid. So that's what you're seeing here along the right side. That information populated right on my chart. Now, this in fact does become another way of identifying support and resistance based upon the current volatility, based upon the time of day, and they're just price range forecasts. Okay, so they're suggestions, they're ideas as to where prices may exhaust in terms of resistance weighting and support. So that's why you'll see over the next 1440 minutes, that's the next day, you can see that they're plotted. You'll see a 1440 on both sides of the price action. And the reason for that, of course, is because we have the high part of the range and the low part of the range. And then you have the 240, you have the 60, the 30, and the 15. So that's why you have two lines for each. It gives you the range expectation depending upon how far out your time frame outlook is. Okay, so here's the 30-minute chart. Again, it's just another layer of analysis to take a look at the expectations for where prices might move down to, and therefore which support and resistance might be in play when it comes to, say, psychological levels or even your chart patterns. Now you'll notice on the right side of my chart, I've got some chart patterns going here. Now, if you checked out one of my recent updates over at forexstreet.net, you'll know that I was talking about the consolidation that we were seeing, and AutoChartist had identified a triangle pattern. I don't know how many of you saw that update, but there was a triangle pattern that had emerged, a large triangle pattern, and the initial trend was fairly flat, and I was waiting for a breakout or breakdown. Now, when I took a look at the daily chart, you know that from a momentum standpoint and a sentiment standpoint, there's a little bit more bearishness in terms of what we're dealing with, okay, on this chart. And of course, there are a series of chart patterns and lines and levels that have been in play here as well. But my focus was the 30-minute. I know the directional bias is leaning towards the bearishness a little bit more. So let me show you that update. So here's the update, and this is what the chart looked like before. Blow this up for y'all a little bit. Okay, so that was the alert. Prices are consolidated. Notice that I've got an absolutely flat, non-existent initial trend here. What is that indicating to me? Remember, 1 to 3 bars typically is going to give